Now, my support for Christianity was most beat into me by Carl Jung. Jung was very clear that we are entering into the stage of nihilism that Nietzsche described, ironically. Oh, Nietzsche was right again. Here we go. Now, Jung realized that in this chaotic place, if we don't have stabilizing forces, we will be prone to being possessed by ideas, to being bewitched by isms, is what he said. Our minds would get pulled off towards communism, or fascism, or liberalism, or transgenderism, or Nietzscheanism, or something like this. And so Jung was saying that our egos, our conscious minds are very vulnerable to this. We're very vulnerable to getting word bewitched by ideologies. And Jung, in response to this, realized that it's incredibly important to understand how the psyche is built, the architecture of the mind, the human mind. It's built like a structure, and at the bottom of it, obviously at the bottom of the structure is the most stabilizing forces. And so he would say at the root of your psyche is the self, the super identity of who you are. And of course, Jung would say for Western man, the identity, the character who sits on the symbol, who sits on the throne of the self, is Jesus Christ. And if you deny Jesus Christ, you're denying your own soul. You're putting yourself in incredible positions of danger where you're going to spiral into all sorts of chaos. It's so stupid. It's so dangerous to do something like this. He heavily warned against that. He was like, do not deny Christ, my God. Look at Nietzsche, for example. Nietzsche went to war and tried to replace the symbol of Christ with the symbol of Dionysus, and it basically ripped into shreds before he could finish the job. It's important to understand that this is what Jung saw happening with naughty, nasty, freaky Nietzsche. This is what we're going through with the nihilism problem. European people are casting off Christ towards this sort of new potential, new future in this chaos, and they're all getting caught up and bewitched by all this nonsense as a consequence of this. And so Jung was saying that if you want to stabilize yourself and live a life of health and joy, go back to Christ, stay connected to Christ. But he also had a caveat to this. Don't think that you can do it in a rationalized philosophical way. The same ideological problems that come along with communism, fascism, liberalism, all this type of stuff, the same ideological problems that come along with flattering your word cell mind are the same issues with this. Instead, what he wanted you to do was have a ritual-based form of Christianity. He was a Protestant, but he actually encouraged all of the Europeans to go back to Catholicism, because Catholicism was the most grounded in ritual as he saw it. It was the most ritualized and unconscious version of Christianity of them all. It was the one that never tried to justify itself. It tried to justify itself the least. Instead, it just presented operations, rituals, prestige, majesty. It is something that is very, very compelling and stabilizing as a consequence of this. And so Jung said, Christ is the seat of yourself. If you want stabilization through the era of nihilism, Catholicism's probably what you need to go to. Now, you'll notice that an awful lot of these new Christians, they're trying to rationalize this philosophically. They're turning into these same ideologues that Jung was warning about. The only one I've come across who has not been like this is Jonathan Pajot. I was chatting with him about this, and people would start to get into sort of the philosophical debates and all this stuff, and he's like, guys, I don't fucking care, bro. Like, Christianity is a living religion. We have living rituals and living operations. This is I'm happy, I'm chuffed, I'm good. And that's actually the healthiest possible perspective that you can have, because it's something that you engage with and you live. You go out into the world and you do the things that are necessary to get married, to get baptized, to join a community, to create art for something that's higher than yourself. All of this stuff can be found in the church. Nietzsche doesn't have any of that stuff. Where do you go to the Nietzsche church? Are you going to marry a Nietzschean girlfriend? Like, none of that stuff is going to happen. People are like, where's the comprehensive church of Nietzsche? It's like, it doesn't exist, man. Go and find something that brings you towards life. That's probably going to be a church of some sort. It's probably going to be some type of Christianity of some sort. Don't think that you can go into philosophy and escape this stuff, but also don't think that you can go into philosophy in general and do this. You're ultimately trying to make sure that you don't get stuck in your head in the era of nihilism and pull yourself out of that stuff and live in the world and do something pragmatic and do something intelligent, which is engage with the world on life's terms, to live a life. In fact, as Nietzsche would say, a life-affirming life, to live and engage with life instead of becoming life-denying and getting lost in a death cult and spiraling and becoming sterile. That's the point of all this.